My husband had been married to me for 184 days when the internet congratulated him on proposing to another woman. I found out in a makeup chair at 6 in the morning. My stylist, Danny, stopped curling my hair and shoved her phone under my nose. On the screen, lifestyle influencer Lila Monroe was walking through LAX in cream trousers and sunglasses, holding an iced matcha where every camera could see her left hand. A narrow silver ring circled her finger. It looked exactly like mine. The night before, Adrian Vale had posted a close-up of the matching rings on his verified account. No faces, no names. Just silver against black velvet, and one caption, "Best yes of my life." Adrian was the youngest CEO in the history of Vale Media Group. He had also spent the last decade keeping his face out of the press. That combination made the internet treat every glimpse of his private life like evidence in a true crime documentary. By midnight, people had identified the watch on his wrist, the restaurant reflected in his water glass, and the designer who had made the rings. By breakfast, Lila had supplied the missing bride. She posted a photograph of herself in the airport lounge, her silver ring resting on a white rose. Somebody is still very pleased with himself. You would think I was the first woman in history to say yes. The comments were moving too fast to read. Vale's mystery, fiancé found. This is the power couple Los Angeles needed. He stayed private until he met the right woman. I'm crying. Danny lowered her voice. Tell me you and Adrian picked something out of a catalog. A catalog in which every item comes with the buyer's thumbprint engraved inside? She winced. So no. So definitely no. My ring was not on my finger. I took it off for work because period costumes and contemporary jewelry did not mix, and because productions had an impressive talent for losing objects more valuable than their insurance deductible. It was in the safe at our apartment. At that exact moment, my husband was in a strategy meeting at a conference hotel in Calabasas, where phones were banned during morning sessions. Convenient for Lila. Less convenient for my blood pressure. Maybe it's a knockoff, Danny said. It has to be. Then why does she want everyone to think she's engaged to your husband? 6 months earlier, Adrian and I had gotten married at the Santa Barbara County Clerk's office, with Danny as my witness and Adrian's older sister holding a grocery store bouquet. We had kept it quiet at my request. I had spent 9 years graduating from dead body roles to speaking roles. My first lead film, Little Repairs, opened in 3 weeks. I wanted one review of my work before the industry decided I had only been hired because I shared a bed with the man who owned the distributor. Adrian hated the secrecy, though he understood it. Mostly 3 weeks ago, after an argument that ended with both of us eating cold noodles in separate rooms, we had agreed on one small public step. On our 6-month anniversary, Vale's communications team would post the ring photograph. No names, no faces. Later, if I was ready, we would release one picture together. The communications team scheduled the post for 5 that morning, 8 o'clock on the East Coast, to catch the morning news cycle. They also sent us 6 possible photographs for a future announcement. I approved the rings and rejected all 6 photographs, including the one I had taken of Adrian on our balcony. Last night, after too much champagne, he decided 5 hours was an unreasonable time to wait and posted the rings himself. Nobody knows who you are, he'd said when I objected. I had looked at the man whose followers once identified a hotel from the stitching on a pillowcase. That is not the same as nobody finding out. Danny's phone buzzed again. This time it was a promotional clip for Time's The Spill, an entertainment show streamed live online and cut into a half-hour television broadcast each evening. I was scheduled to appear that afternoon to promote Time's Little Repairs. Lila Monroe was the other guest. The clip showed her arriving at the studio, still wearing the ring. Well, Danny said, reaching for a stronger setting spray. At least you won't have to hunt her down. I stared at Lila's serene smile. No, I said. She booked a chair right next to mine. Lila Monroe had built 12 million followers on a voice so soft it made every accusation sound like a prayer request. She floated onto the set of Times the Spill Times in a white silk dress and accepted the audience's cheers with both hands pressed to her heart. When she sat beside me, she arranged her fingers over her knee. The ring caught the light on cue. Our host, Grant Keller, leaned toward it like a sunflower. "That is some interesting jewelry, Lila." She laughed and looked down. "Is it? The internet thinks so. The internet thinks a lot of things." Another laugh, another turn of her hand. Grant had hosted live television for 15 years. He knew how to leave a silence exactly long enough for an audience to fill it with whatever answer earned the highest ratings. "Can you tell us whether congratulations are in order?" he asked. Lila looked toward the main camera. "I promised someone I would let him share our news when he was ready." The studio erupted. She had not said Adrian's name. She did not need to. Grant glanced at me. "Tessa, you look skeptical. I'm an actress. Sometimes that's just my face." The audience laughed, which was useful. It gave me 3 seconds to study the ring at close range. Lena Ortiz, the jeweler who made ours, called the design Times Afterlight. From above, it looked simple. From the side, the band curved like a Mobius strip, a continuous surface with one slight off-center seam. Lila's ring had the same silhouette, but when she turned her hand, the seam caught the studio light in the wrong place. A copy, then. A very good one. During the first commercial break, I texted Adrian, "Call me as soon as you get this. Emergency." No, I am not exaggerating this time. Then I texted Lena a screenshot. "Did you make a third Afterlight ring?" Her reply came before we returned from commercial. "Absolutely not." Where did she get that? Good question. The next segment was called Favorite Person. Every guest's team received the same instructions in advance. Pin one contact, call that person on air, and ask for $5,000 without explaining why. Grant chose who went first. He chose Lila first. She made a show of hiding her screen, but not before the camera caught the contact name at the top, A.V., followed by a red heart. The profile picture was a headshot of Adrian, not a public one. My stomach tightened. It was a photograph I'd taken on our balcony the morning after our wedding. Adrian was barefoot, unshaven, and holding the chipped blue mug he refused to throw away. I had never posted it. Lila pressed call. The man who answered sounded like my husband. "Hey," he said, "everything okay?" The audience went silent. Lila smiled at her lap. "I need a favor. Could you send me $5,000? "Of course. Want me to call?" "No. I'm filming. I'll explain later." "Anything for you." The call ended. Less than 10 seconds later, her phone chimed with a payment notification. Grant raised both eyebrows at the camera. My hands went cold. It was Adrian's voice, but it was not Adrian speaking. I had once worked in post-production, cleaning dialogue for shows that could not afford another day on location. You learn voices when you spend 14 hours removing air conditioners from underneath them. The breaths, the clipped consonants, the tiny noises a person makes while deciding what to say. The recording had Adrian's pitch and texture. It did not have his timing. He paused in the same place after every sentence. Beneath his words, a low hiss repeated on a short loop. "And Adrian never said anything for you." He said, "How expensive is this favor?" Even when I asked him to pass the salt. Grant turned to me. "Shall we try your favorite person?" My screen filled the monitor behind us, before I could object. The pinned contact read, "Husband who leaves wet towels on the bed." The audience laughed. Lila did not. "Interesting," Grant said. "Can we see a name? You can see that I have made my position on towels extremely clear." He reached across, and tapped the contact. Adrian Vale appeared beneath the nickname. Every sound in the room seemed to stop at once. Grant's grin widened. Well, today keeps getting better. I could have lied. I could have said it was a joke, or a different Adrian Vale, or an unfortunate contact name coincidence. Instead, I pressed call. It rang until voicemail. Someone in the audience groaned. A few people laughed. The live comments rolled across the monitor at our feet. She renamed a contact for attention. This is painful. Lila finally looked at me. Her concern was beautifully calibrated. Tessa, I know publicity can be stressful, she said, but using somebody else's private life to promote a movie isn't fair. I turned toward her. We agree on something. Then maybe we should stop this. I didn't start it. Her eyes filled almost instantly. Lila was famous for crying without reddening her nose, a skill I respected professionally, even while wanting to throw her phone into the decorative fountain. I have tried to be patient, she said. Adrian told me there was an actress who had become fixated on him. I didn't realize it was you. The audience shifted. Discomfort made better television than applause. My phone rang. In my hand. Adrian. Grant gestured frantically for me to answer on speaker. Tess, Adrian said. His real voice came through rough and distracted. What's wrong? I walked out of a board meeting. I watched Lila. For the first time that afternoon, she forgot to perform. Her lips parted. The muscles around her eyes went still. I'm live on Times. The spill, I said. There is a woman sitting next to me, wearing a copy of my ring and telling the country she's engaged to you. Silence. Then, I'm sorry, what? The audience laughed, but Adrian wasn't joking. Lila recovered. Adrian, it's me. Who is me? Lila. Another pause. Should I know a Lila? Her face strained so quickly that even Grant stopped smiling. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I remembered the balcony photograph on her phone. The photo she's using for your contact, I said, is the one I took after Santa Barbara. Adrian's tone changed. That was rejected from our announcement package. Nobody outside the media team should have it. It left somehow. Tess, get off that set. I can't do that. Why not? Because if I walk away now, she gets to keep our life. Adrian exhaled. I could picture him rubbing the line between his eyebrows. I'm coming back, he said. You're at least an hour away in traffic. Then Grant can keep streaming until I get there. Tell him not to. And stop posting from bed. This is not the time to win an old argument. It is exactly the time. Grant stared at me. Are you saying that you and Adrian Vale? We're taking a break, the floor producer shouted. The red camera lights went dark. The studio exploded into motion. Grant's executive producer, Renee Cole, hurried onto the set with a headset crooked over one ear. Nobody leaves. Legal is on the phone. I am leaving, Lila said. She stood so fast, her microphone wire caught on the chair. I held up her contact photograph on my phone. Then tell me where you got that. From my fiancé. He just asked who you were. You ambushed him. He panicked because of you. The answer came too quickly. She had prepared it. Renee planted herself between us. We have 7 minutes. Tessa, if you're making a legal claim about a marriage, I need proof before we go back. I opened the encrypted family vault, where we kept scans of our legal documents. The page rejected my password. I tried again. Incorrect password. Of course. I could remember 6 pages of revised dialogue after one read, but I had apparently protected my marriage with a password no human being could reproduce. My copy is at home, I said. Grant looked disappointed. That's unfortunate. You seem devastated. Lila sat back down. Her composure had returned. I have proof, she said quietly. She handed Renee her phone. On the screen, Adrian was kneeling beneath an arch of white roses. holding out Lila's silver ring. The proposal photograph was almost perfect. It showed the terrace of a glass house above Malibu. Lila stood in a pale dress, one hand covering her mouth. Adrian knelt in front of her with the Pacific behind him, his face turned toward the camera. His face was real, the body was not. I knew because Adrian had broken his left wrist at 13. He could turn that hand over, but not far enough to hold a ring box at the angle in the photograph. I also knew the source of his expression. He had looked at me that way at the Golden Frame Awards the previous winter. We had been seated 4 tables apart. He had spent half the ceremony texting me complaints about my dress having no sleeves, and I had finally blown him a kiss to make him stop. Someone had photographed his reaction. Someone had cut it out and given it to Lila. "Can you send me the original file?" I asked Renee. Lila's head snapped up. "No, that's private. You brought it onto live television. To defend myself." "Then defend yourself with the full resolution image." Grant stepped closer to the phone. He was no longer pretending this was a harmless celebrity misunderstanding. "Lila, did you submit that picture to our producers before the show?" Renee answered for her. "Her publicist sent it this morning, along with 2 animated photos and screenshots of their messages. Send every original file to this number." I wrote my friend Priya's contact on the back of a cue card. She's a visual effects supervisor. She can tell us what we're looking at. Renee hesitated. The network attorney spoke into her earpiece. She winced. "We can share only the materials Lila authorized us to broadcast," she said. "I withdraw authorization," Lila said. Lila had told the room her proof was real, but inspection was the one thing she would not allow. I looked at Grant. "You heard her claim to have proof on a live broadcast. Now she doesn't want anybody to inspect it." Lila folded her hands. "Because your friend isn't independent. Then, hire another expert after the show. Right now, let ours explain what can and cannot be concluded." Renee held up both hands. "We are not conducting digital forensics between commercials." "No," I said. "You're conducting a rating stunt with stolen personal material." Renee stopped listening to her earpiece and looked straight at me. Renee stared at me, then walked toward the control room while speaking sharply into her headset. My phone vibrated. Lena had replied again. "I just checked our client records. Someone called 3 weeks ago asking for an Afterlight replica. We refused." She knew the width, alloy, and finish. She also asked whether the inside could be left blank. "Do you have the number?" Blocked. But I saved the voicemail because it was strange. "Send it to me and don't post anything yet." Lena sent the file. The caller's voice was muffled, but I recognized Lila's careful upward lilt at the end of every request. It was not enough by itself. People heard what they expected to hear, and a compressed voicemail did not become a fingerprint because I disliked the speaker. But it was a beginning. Priya called while Renee was still in the control room. "I was in a color session," she said. "Why has your marriage become a push notification? Long story. Can you get to a computer?" "Already there. Send me everything." "The show may send you 3 files. I need facts, not one of those fake confidence percentages." "Thank you for explaining my profession to me. I'm under stress. You get bossy under stress. I am always bossy. Under stress, I skip hello." Renee came back onto the set. Lila's publicist granted broadcast permission when she sent the files. "Legal says we can examine copies if we don't publish private metadata. Your expert gets 10 minutes, and she appears with full disclosure that she knows you personally." Lila stood again. "This is insane." Renee faced her. "You told us the files were authentic. Were they?" "Yes." "Then 10 minutes won't hurt them." The stage manager began counting down. Grant returned to his chair and adjusted his smile. "When we come back," he said, "we're airing the home visits." I looked at him. "What home visits?" His smile became genuine. The ones we filmed yesterday. The first home belonged, supposedly, to Lila and Adrian. The pre-recorded segment opened on a modern house in Malibu, all white stone and glass walls. Lila answered the door at 6 in the morning, wearing silk pajamas, full makeup, and fresh curls. She led the camera through an immaculate kitchen. A man's watch rested beside the espresso machine. Men's loafers waited by the stairs. Framed photographs showed Lila and Adrian at restaurants, premieres, and the beach. In every one, his face was partly turned away. Adrian values privacy, recorded Lila told the camera. This is the one place where he gets to be normal. Present-day Lila watched herself, with tears shining in her eyes. I watched the house. My first job in Los Angeles had been logging footage for a real estate show. Luxury rentals all shared a peculiar emptiness. The books had unbroken spines. The knives had never met a tomato. There were 6 decorative bowls, and no junk drawer. On the screen, a small brass plaque appeared beside the wine refrigerator. I had seen it before. During the break, I searched rental listings until I found the same terrace and the same plaque. The house cost $4,800 a night and offered optional romantic staging. White rose arches were available for an additional fee. I sent the listing to Renee. She read it on her tablet, and the corner of her mouth tightened. Then the second home visit began. The screen showed the hallway outside my apartment in West Hollywood. A producer whispered to the camera that the team was surprising me before sunrise. 2 weeks earlier, my manager had approved a 7 in the morning routine interview in our building lobby. When my call time moved up, I went straight to the studio and forgot to cancel it. The concierge had checked the crew against the approved list and let them upstairs. Nobody had approved an apartment tour. They knocked. No answer. They knocked again, louder. Finally, the door opened. Adrian stood there in black sweatpants and my old UCLA t-shirt, his hair flattened on one side. He looked toward the bedroom and pressed a finger to his lips. "Keep your voices down," he said. "She's asleep." The producer tried to step closer. "We're from Times The Spill. We're here for Tessa Ward's morning interview." At 5:40 in the morning? Her management approved it. They approved the lobby. "This is our home. Can we come in for 5 minutes?" Adrian looked directly into the camera. The country got its first, clear, unedited view of his face. No. He closed the door. The clip ended. For several seconds, nobody in the studio spoke. Then, Grant cleared his throat. "Lila, if Adrian lives with you in Malibu, why was he answering Tessa's door before 6 in the morning?" Lila folded her arms around herself. "I didn't say he lived with me full-time. You called it the one place where he could be normal. We had an argument. He left." "In my college t-shirt?" I asked. Her gaze sharpened. "You admit he was in your apartment then." "I wasn't trying to hide it. I was trying to keep my marriage from becoming marketing copy." The sentence left my mouth before I had decided to say it. The studio went very still. I heard Grant whisper, "Marriage?" I looked into the center camera. "Adrian Vale is not Lila Monroe's fiancé," I said. "He is my husband. We were married in Santa Barbara 6 months ago." The live comments vanished beneath a flood of new ones. Lila shook her head with grave pity. "Tessa, please. Being involved with a married man isn't something to confess proudly." It took me a second to understand her strategy. Then I almost admired the nerve. "You're saying Adrian married me while engaged to you?" "I'm saying he told me the ceremony wasn't real. It was at the county clerk's office." Men with his resources can make documents say anything. Grant leaned toward her. "Do you have a marriage license?" "We chose commitment without paperwork." "Convenient," I said. "Not everyone needs government approval to know what love is." "Apparently, some people don't need the groom's approval either." The audience laughed. Lila's eyes hardened. My phone buzzed with a message from Priya. I found the source image. "Give me 5 minutes." Priya appeared on the studio monitor from an editing bay in Burbank, a pencil shoved through her hair, and a half-eaten burrito beside her keyboard. Grant introduced her as a visual effects supervisor and disclosed that she had known me for 11 years. Which means, Priya said, you should verify everything I say with an independent examiner. I'm not here to declare a winner. I'm here to show you what is in the files the show received. The proposal photograph filled the screen behind us. Priya placed another image beside it. Adrian sat at a table during the Golden Frame Awards, turning toward someone beyond the frame with a helpless smile. Me. This photograph was taken by wire service photographer Noah Bell last December, Priya said. The face, hair, collar, and left ear match. Even the tiny blocks and edge noise are the same. She overlaid the pictures. Adrian's face disappeared into itself. You can see where the source ends at the jaw. In the proposal image, the edge has been blended into a different neck. The lighting on the face comes from above and camera left. The body is lit by a sunset from camera right. Priya zoomed in on the ring box. Lila shook her head. You altered it. Production saved a digital fingerprint of the file your publicist submitted. It matches the copy I examined, not anything Tessa sent me. Grant looked to Renee. She confirmed it from the side of the stage. Priya opened the short animated proposal clip. Adrian raised the ring box toward Lila, while her dress moved in the ocean wind. Now watch his hand. His thumb is in front of the box in one frame, and behind the lid in the next. The software lost track of which object was closer to the camera. She opened a second animated image. In it, Adrian pulled Lila into his arms beside the terrace railing. This is generated movement, built from a still image. Look at the railing behind Mr. Vale. It bends toward his shoulder and returns to straight as the frames repeat. His watch face also changes shape 4 times in 2 seconds. The clip looped slowly. Once Priya pointed it out, the railing seemed to breathe. The audience murmured. What about the phone call? Grant asked. I can't authenticate a call from audio captured off a studio speaker, Priya said. I can say there is a repeating noise bed under the voice and no audible interaction between the speaker and Lila. Her words never overlap his. That is consistent with a prepared synthetic response, but it is not proof by itself. Lila seized on the qualification. So it could be real. It could be several things. That's what a responsible answer sounds like. I tried not to smile. Renee held up a finger. We have Adrian Vale on the phone again. His face appeared on the monitor from the back seat of a car. He was still in his suit from the board meeting, tie gone. Patience apparently gone with it. Priya, he said, thank you. Tess, check with production. The attorney who handled our marriage paperwork sent Network Legal the certified copy she keeps on file. She's speaking to them after this morning? Only through their attorney. She has opinions. I like her already, Priya said. Adrian looked toward someone in the front seat. We're 40 minutes away. Lila leaned forward. Adrian, don't do this. You told me you would protect me. His expression did not change. We have never met. The Hartwell benefit. 2 years ago. I wasn't at the Hartwell benefit. I have a picture. You have demonstrated that pictures are not your strongest evidence. This time, the audience laughed at her. The change in the room was ugly in its own way. Half an hour earlier, strangers had delighted in humiliating me. Now, they were eager to turn the same appetite on Lila. They had not become more careful. They had only chosen a new target. I looked at the comment screen. Destroy her. She's finished. Someone should find her address. Take the comments off the wall, I said. Grant blinked. What? Take them off. Renee signaled the control room. The comments disappeared. Lila stared at me as if kindness were another trick. During the next break, the network's attorney examined the certified copy of our marriage certificate, confirmed its certificate number, and the identity of the lawyer who sent it, then cleared Grant to read the date on air. Vale Media supplied a separate statement confirming that Adrian and I were married and that the company had no personal or professional relationship with Lila. Lila still refused to remove the silver ring. "I know what he promised me," she said. "Then tell us where you bought it," I said. "Adrian gave it to me." "When?" "3 weeks ago." "Where?" "At the Malibu house." "The house available tonight for anyone with $4,800 and a credit card?" The rental listing appeared on the screen. Lila's publicist had booked it for one night. Renee had confirmed the reservation with the property manager during the break. The watch came from the show's own prop department. Grant's face tightened when he heard that last part. "Our prop department?" Renee nodded. "The request came from Lila's publicist for a separate shoot. They said it was a pilot presentation." Lila looked toward the wings, where her publicist had been standing earlier. The woman was gone. "I didn't arrange any of that," Lila said. "But you stood inside it and called it your home," I said. "My team told me Adrian wanted to protect the location." Her answers were losing detail. First, she had memories. Then, she had promises. Now, she had a team. My phone vibrated beneath my hand. The message came from an unknown number. "Ask her who Owen is." I had met him once in Priya's editing suite. He was a junior compositor who had been fired from a streaming series for taking celebrity footage home on an unsecured drive. "Who is Owen?" I asked. Lila stopped breathing for a beat. "I don't know." Priya, still connected from Burbank, leaned closer to her monitor. "Owen Beck? You know him?" Grant asked. "He freelanced at my facility for 6 days. We let him go for mishandling client files." My phone buzzed again. "You promised you wouldn't put this on me. You just did." Then came a photograph of Lila at a small jewelry workshop in downtown Los Angeles. Beside her stood Owen, one hand resting on a ring mold. The balcony photograph suddenly had a root out of Adrian's publicity files. I forwarded the messages to Renee, but she refused to put them on the screen. "We can't authenticate an anonymous number or establish when that photograph was taken," she said. She was right, which was deeply irritating. Lila sensed the hesitation and sat straighter. "This is harassment. Tessa has had her friends manufacture an entire story because she found out Adrian loved someone else. You just said you didn't know Owen." "I don't." "Then you won't mind if the network verifies the photograph after the show." Her gaze slid toward the nearest exit. The doors at the back of the studio opened. Adrian walked in carrying a slim black ring box and wearing the expression that usually made senior executives discover urgent reasons to revise their numbers. Grant rose to greet him. Adrian passed him without slowing. He stopped in front of me. For one quiet second, the cameras and audience seemed to fall away. He touched the side of my face with 2 fingers. "Are you okay?" "Ask me after I've yelled at you." He nodded. "Fair." Then Lila stood and said, "Adrian." He turned toward her. She had spent the entire show rehearsing this moment. I could see the instant she chose the version where he had been pressured into denying her. "You don't have to be afraid of her," she said. Adrian looked back at me, then at Lila. "That is a profoundly inaccurate understanding of my marriage." Adrian sat beside me and placed the black box on the table. Inside were 2 rings. He wore his on a chain during board meetings and had retrieved mine from our apartment on the drive back. Under the studio lights, Lena's design looked almost plain. 2 narrow bands of brushed silver, each twisting once before closing. Lena Ortiz cut these rings from the same bar of palladium silver and shaped them as a pair, Adrian said. "There are no others." He handed his ring to Grant, then mine. The camera zoomed in. My thumbprint curved along the inside of Adrian's band. His marked mine. Beside each print, Lena had engraved the coordinates of the Santa Barbara County Clerk's office. Adrian nodded toward Lila's hand. May we compare them? She covered the ring. No. Grant did not reach for it. Lila, nobody is going to take it from you. But if you want the audience to believe it came from Adrian, this is your chance. For a few seconds, she did nothing. Then she pulled it off and dropped it on the table. The camera showed the differences immediately. Lila's ring had a straight interior wall and no engraving. The outer twist bent in the opposite direction. Up close, the brushed finish was a grid of machine marks. Adrian did not gloat. That ring was copied from the picture I posted last night, he said. The picture showed only one side. Whoever made the replica had to guess the rest, and guessed wrong. I picked up Lila's ring and turned it beneath the light. There was a tiny solder scar near the seam. Lena had laser-welded ours so cleanly that the joins disappeared beneath the brushed finish. 3 weeks, I said. Lila frowned. You told us Adrian gave this to you 3 weeks ago. But whoever made it copied a photograph Adrian didn't publish until last night. She looked toward the screen as if the answer might appear there, unless you saw the photograph before he posted it. Adrian's attention sharpened. The draft was in the anniversary package. Who had it 3 weeks ago? I asked. He opened the approval email on his phone. I leaned over and expanded the delivery list. Vale's communications staff had sent the ring photograph and 6 possible couple portraits to Brightline Post, an outside vendor hired to finish the files for release. The balcony picture I rejected was still listed among the original selects. Priya swore softly from the monitor. Owen told one of my assistants he got a job at Brightline after we fired him. Adrian scrolled to the access report his security director had just sent. His contractor login downloaded the package the night it arrived. Adrian looked at Renee. Your network will preserve every file, email, and access log connected to today's broadcast. Renee nodded before he finished. We already issued a preservation notice. Lila's chair scraped backward. I need my attorney. Yes, I said, you do. She looked at me with all the softness gone. Do you think this makes you special? He kept you hidden for 6 months. The words struck where she intended them to. Adrian started to answer, but I touched his wrist. I kept us private, I said. That was my choice, and he agreed because you weren't worth claiming. He agreed because marriage is allowed to contain compromise. Occasionally bad compromise. You think people will respect your work now? Every role you get will belong to him. Some people will say that, I said. Some were already saying worse. Hiding my husband didn't make me more talented, and admitting I love him won't make me less talented. Adrian's hand closed around mine. Lila looked from our joined hands to the camera. Her face changed. The anger fell away, and the vulnerable expression returned. I was manipulated, she whispered. Owen told me Adrian loved me. He made the files. He said Adrian was trapped in a marriage arranged by his family. You said you didn't know Owen, Grant reminded her. Lila began to cry. This time, her nose turned red. The show did not end with security dragging Lila away, or an audience chanting my name. What followed was slower and involved more conference calls. Renee cut the broadcast after Lila asked for an attorney. The network posted the unedited home visit footage, the file comparison, and a correction. It also announced an internal investigation into how unverified personal claims had been turned into a live segment. Grant issued an apology that used the phrase, an opportunity for growth, twice. I did not respond. By evening, Owen Beck had identified himself through a lawyer. He offered the original project files, the workshop invoice, and his messages with Lila, after watching her deny that she knew him on air. At home that night, Adrian put his phone, face down, on the kitchen counter. I owe you an apology, he said. We agreed on 5 a.m. I moved the post because waiting annoyed me, then pretended our compromise gave me permission. It didn't. I was wrong. He was not smiling or trying to turn the apology into foreplay. "I'm still going to yell at you," I said. "I know, but thank you." Over the next few days, Owen's files answered the questions the livestream could not. Owen had copied the photographs from Brightline's anniversary package and built the false proposal images. He had cloned Adrian's voice from investor calls and public interviews. He had also ordered the replica ring from the scheduled photograph. But Lila had written the script. Her messages specified the pet names, the Malibu house, and the flight she booked for the morning of Vale's scheduled anniversary post. Because Favorite Person was a regular segment with a fixed $5,000 prompt, Owen had prepared several responses and played the right clips from a soundboard while Lila spoke. He sent the payment from a second account, belonging to her own company. Lila's home renovation series had been canceled, and her largest beauty sponsor was deciding whether to renew her contract that week. Her engagement numbers had fallen for 6 straight months. The plan was to hint at a relationship for 48 hours, collect the headlines, then ask the public to respect their privacy. She believed Adrian would ignore celebrity gossip as he always had. When the Spill Times invited both of us, the plan became dangerous. One of Lila's messages read, "Ward won't admit the marriage before her premiere. She's too scared people will say he bought her career." Then she ordered more evidence. Vale Media's security logs confirmed Owen's access, the jeweler confirmed the ring order, and a wardrobe company confirmed the rented loafers. The Santa Barbara County Clerk Recorder separately confirmed our marriage record. An independent lab examined the media files before our attorneys included any findings in court papers. Priya's live analysis was accurate, though she complained that nobody remembered the part where she had asked them to verify it. "Responsible caveats never trend," she told me over takeout 2 weeks later. Lila's sponsors suspended their contracts. Her agency dropped her after the messages became part of the public filing. The network did not announce a dramatic ban. It simply stopped calling. Owen pleaded guilty to charges related to unlawful computer access and identity theft. Our civil case would take 9 months and end in a settlement that barred both of them from using our images, voices, or private data again. I asked my attorney whether a court order could also bar strangers from having opinions about my marriage. She said her hourly rate did not cover miracles. Long before the case ended, the harder part was Time's little repairs. For its first week, every interview began with Adrian. Reviewers described me as the secret wife of media heir Adrian Vale before they mentioned the character I played. I nearly canceled the premiere. Adrian found me sitting on our bedroom floor, still wearing one earring, because I had put on half my dress and changed my mind. "If I go," I said, "the movie becomes our marriage again." He loosened his tie and sat beside me. "Do you want me to stay home tonight?" I considered it. 6 months earlier, I would have said yes before he finished asking. Privacy had started as a boundary. Somewhere along the way, I had turned it into a test of whether I could succeed without ever being seen accepting help. Sitting there with one earring and my dress pulled around my waist, I could finally admit the test had become exhausting. "No," I said. "I want you there. I just don't want you answering questions for me. I can be decorative. You have trained for this your whole life." He smiled. "And if somebody asks how we met, tell them I hired you as a hand model. Nobody will believe that. Show them your rings." At the premiere, Adrian walked the carpet with me and kept his promise. When reporters asked about the live stream, he said, "Tonight is about Tessa's film." When they asked about our marriage, he said, "She'll tell you what she wants you to know." When one shouted that I had married into Hollywood royalty, Adrian looked genuinely offended. "Her last movie made more money than my first company," he said. "I married up." That answer appeared everywhere the next morning, which was annoying because it was both charming and financially misleading. The film did well. Curiosity filled the first weekend, but people stayed for the story and recommended it to friends who did not care whose ring I wore. 3 months later, I was back in a sound booth recording narration for the streaming release. Priya sat behind the glass, removing a click from one of my lines. "Again," she said, through the headphones. "And stop swallowing the end of the sentence. I have never done that in my life." She played back the evidence. I did it again. At lunch, I found Adrian waiting outside with 2 coffees. He had finally stopped posting photographs without showing them to me first. In return, I had stopped hiding him like an embarrassing medical condition. Our household rules had become annoyingly specific. No moving scheduled posts, no sending pictures to a publicist until both of us approved them, and no wet towels on the bed. Adrian followed 2 out of 3 with impressive consistency. He handed me a cup and glanced at my bare left hand. "You lost your ring." "It's on the chain." I pulled it from beneath my shirt. "There are microphones everywhere in there. I didn't want it clicking." Reasonable. He sounded disappointed anyway. I slid the ring onto my finger and held my hand beside his. The bands no longer looked identical. His had a scratch from catching it on our kitchen drawer. Mine had a small dent from a stunt rehearsal. Lena had offered to polish them. We had said no. The flaws made them harder to copy. Adrian lifted our hands and took out his phone. "Absolutely not," I said. "I wasn't posting." "You opened the camera." "For private use." That phrase has lost all meaning in our household. He put the phone away and kissed my knuckles instead. Better? Much. Across the street, a photographer noticed us and raised his camera. For once, I did not pull my hand away. I turned it slightly so the scratched silver caught the California sun, then kept walking beside my husband.